What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got something that's been flying under the radar, but honestly shouldn't be, because when you start connecting the dots, this makes way too much sense to ignore. I'm talking about Pete Fairbanks and the Toronto Blue Jays and why this potential pairing is not only logical, but might actually be inevitable if Toronto plays their cards right. Stick with me here because this gets interesting fast. And hey, if you're digging the content, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss when these stories develop. All right, let's break this down. So first, let's talk about what's happening in Tampa Bay, or more accurately, what's not happening. The offseason is well underway. Teams are making moves, rosters are shifting, and the Rays have been oddly silent. They brought in Jake Fraley to help against right-handed pitching, which is fine. It's a useful addition, but it's hardly the kind of move that changes your trajectory. The real story, the one that has people scratching their heads, is what Tampa did with Pete Fairbanks, or rather what they didn't do. They chose not to pick up his contract option. Let that sink in for a second. One of the most dominant, most reliable relievers in the entire league, a guy who's been their closer and a cornerstone of that bullpen for years, and they just let him walk. No extension talks, no creative restructuring, nothing. Just gone. Now, if you're the Rays, maybe you're trying to save some money. That's the easy explanation. But here's the problem. They haven't done anything with those savings yet. There's no big splash signing, no clever trade that adds impact to the roster, no clear plan that makes the decision make sense. So all you're left with is a gaping hole in the back end of the bullpen and a lot of questions. And the kicker, they didn't even get anything in return. No prospects, no compensation, just a straight-up release into free agency. That's the kind of move that comes back to haunt you, especially in a division as brutal as the AL East. And now Fairbanks is out there on the open market, and guess who's been paying very close attention? Toronto. The Blue Jays just came off an ALCS run. They were knocking on the door of a World Series, and they know exactly what they need to get over the hump. This isn't a team in rebuilding mode or figuring out their identity. They know who they are. They've got Dylan Cease locked up on a massive 7-year deal. They've got Kevin Gausman and Shane Bieber in the rotation, and they've got a lineup that can absolutely mash. But the bullpen, that's where the cracks showed up. That's where the vulnerability lives. Jeff Hoffman had his moments last season, but he also had stretches where the consistency just wasn't there. And in October, you can't afford inconsistency. One bad outing, one shaky inning, and your entire season can implode. Enter Pete Fairbanks. This guy is exactly what Toronto needs. He's got postseason experience. He's faced the best lineups in the American League on a regular basis, and he's got the kind of electric stuff that shuts down innings when the pressure is at its highest. We're talking about a reliever who can dominate the ninth inning, handle multiple high-leverage situations in a series, and give you that confidence that when the game is on the line, you've got someone you can trust. If the Jays sign him, they don't just get a closer, they get flexibility. They can deploy him and Hoffman in tandem, manage workloads better, and have a real 1-2 punch in the late innings that very few teams can match. And if Hoffman hits another rough patch, no problem, because Fairbanks is right there as a legitimate elite alternative. But here's where it gets even more interesting from a strategic standpoint. The AL East is heating up. Baltimore just went out and signed Ryan Helsley, one of the best relievers available, immediately upgrading their bullpen and sending a message to the rest of the division. The Yankees and Red Sox still have payroll space and holes to fill, and even the Rays, despite their quiet start, are notorious for making sudden, shrewd moves that catch everyone off guard. So if Toronto sits back and does nothing, they're not just standing still, they're falling behind. This division is an absolute war zone every single year, and if you're not adding impact talent, someone else is, and they're going to use it against you over 162 games. Fairbanks becoming available at this exact moment is one of those rare situations where timing, need, and opportunity all line up perfectly. The Blue Jays have the financial resources, they have the competitive window, and they have the urgency. This isn't a franchise that's hoping to contend in 2 or 3 years. They're ready right now. And Fairbanks is exactly the kind of piece that can take a good team and turn them into a legitimate World Series threat. He knows the division, he knows the pressures, and he's proven he can handle it. That's not something you find every day in free agency. Now let's talk about what this means for Tampa Bay, because honestly, this has to sting. Not only did they let an elite reliever walk for nothing, but the most likely outcome is that he ends up with a division rival. That's the nightmare scenario for any front office. You make a questionable financial decision, you don't get any value back, and then you have to face that player 15 to 20 times a season while he's helping another team beat you. That's exactly the kind of thing the Rays have worked so hard to avoid over the years with their smart, calculated moves. But this time, they got it wrong. And if Fairbanks signs with Toronto, it's going to be a glaring reminder of that mistake every time he takes the mound at Rogers Center or the Trop. For Fairbanks himself, Toronto represents everything you'd want in a landing spot. It's a team with a clear championship window, a roster loaded with talent, a fan base that's hungry for success, and an organization that's willing to spend to win. After spending years in Tampa Bay grinding through small market realities, this would be a chance to step into a bigger spotlight, compete for a title, and potentially cash in on a multi-year deal that reflects his value. And let's be real, after what Toronto showed last season, you'd have to feel good about your chances of reaching October and making some noise when you get there. If this deal comes together, it's not just a bullpen upgrade, it's a statement. It's Toronto saying, we know what we need, we're going after it, and we're not letting anyone else beat us to the punch. It's the kind of move that separates teams who are good from teams who win championships. You can't just hope your roster's good enough. You have to go out and make it better, even when it costs you, even when it means outbidding other teams, even when it requires commitment. And if Toronto is serious about finishing what they started last season, signing Pete Fairbanks is exactly the type of aggressive, smart, impactful move they need to make. So that's where we're at. Fairbanks is out there. Toronto needs him. The fit is perfect, and the timing couldn't be better. Now it's just a matter of whether the Blue Jays pull the trigger and make it happen before someone else does. All right, your turn. Do you think Toronto should go all in on Pete Fairbanks? Does he solve the bullpen issues, or are there other moves you'd rather see them make? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear what you think. And if you got value from this breakdown, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when the next big story drops. Appreciate you watching. I'll catch you in the next one.